Hello and welcome to our first webinar of 2021. We are all here together to learn how to host awesome remote workshops. So first off, yes, this webinar will be recorded and shared afterwards, which means that if you have to drop off for any reason throughout the webinar, don't worry, in a couple of days you will receive an email with the recording of this webinar. Today I am joined by Krister Halverson. So Krister, if you would turn on your camera and your mic, can introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone.
Krister is here. He works at TwoPark. He's a revenue manager, and he will tell you guys how he hosted amazing workshops and meetings with Kahoot! So if you guys have a question throughout the webinar, feel free to add it in the Q&A. Your mics and cameras will stay off throughout. You are welcome to chat in the chats amongst yourself as much as you want, but just be aware we won't be checking the chat. We will only check the Q&A. I've got a couple of colleagues who will help answer there, and we'll try to get to all of your questions, but there are a lot of people in this webinar. So apologies in advance if we don't get to your question. You can always email us after the webinar as well. So first off, let's get started. What is Kahoot! So a ton of you probably already know what Kahoot! Is. Your kids have played it. Maybe you've played it in school yourself if you're pretty young. Kahoot! Is a great tool, and we are the leader in gamifying learning in the workplace. We do this by making training, presentations, meetings, and events engaging, which could be remotely or in person. And we do this with Kahoot! And Kahoot! Is an engagement platform, as I already mentioned, and there's many different ways how you can use Kahoot! Yourself. So you can use Kahoot! For meetings and workshops, which is what we are talking about today. You can use it for training, which could be in person or remote. What we're doing right now is remote training, since I'm training you guys from the headquarters in Oslo. You could use it for interactive presentations, for compliance training, product or sales training specifically. You can use it to engage audiences at live or virtual events, or you could even use it as onboarding for new hires. And I do recommend you do that. We do that, for instance, by letting people create their own Kahoots about themselves so they can introduce themselves to the company. It's a really fun way to do it. So there are two different ways how you can play Kahoots. And if you have never played Kahoot! Before, this is how it looks. You can play it as a live game. So Kahoot! Is a quiz where everybody has to answer questions, which will be shown on a shared screen in a live game. The thing that you see here in front, the GIF, this is what people will see on their own mobile devices or their website where they play from. And they'll only get the answer tiles, which correspond then with the answer options on the shared screen. The second way to play Kahoot! Is with a Kahoot! Challenge. And challenges are just self-paced Kahoots, which means that everybody sees questions and answers on their own device, and everybody can play on their own time from anywhere. So if you are dealing with employees that are in different time zones, if you're dealing with a very remote workforce, everybody's currently working from home and super busy, just send over a Kahoot! Challenge and everybody can do this at their own pace. So the focus for today's webinar will be about remote workshops and the fact how you can use Kahoot! With meetings, how to make everything successful. And you can do this with our newest question type, which is called Brainstorm. And this is something that Krister will tell you more about in a second as well, how he used how he used Brainstorm to make his workshops even more engaging. And there's a ton of different use cases that you can use Brainstorm for. So with Brainstorm, you can make meetings and workshops interactive, which is what Krister will talk about. You can spark discussions as you're asking everybody to write ideas. You can crowdsource ideas at events, since this really makes Kahoot! A way to combat the fact that you can only do one way if you are presenting somewhere. If you're doing a remote event, you can really only hear people that maybe are right in front of you, or if you are using a video conferencing tool, you can only get information from people that use the chat. But with Kahoot! And with Brainstorm specifically, you can actually get information and ideas from everybody instead. And I want to just share some ways that you can use this with you guys. So you can use it, for instance, if you are doing an ideation session where you want to come up with a new product name, you can use it for that. You can use it as an editorial focus tool if you are looking during your marketing meetings what the next focus should be. You can use it during a product workshop where you have feature development, for instance. You can use it to get employee opinions if you're doing a meeting with HR. There are so many ways that you can use Brainstorm. And Krister will tell you how he did that specifically at his company, 2Park Technologies. So Krister, by all means, walk us through it.
All right. So hi, everyone, and thanks for having me, Evelyn. I think I will spend most of the time trying to explain how we at 2Park used Kahoot and the different question types to be able to interact more with our clients and also internally. So first of all, I just want to quickly introduce what we do at 2Park. So we are a software company with a mission to disrupt the parking industry by digitizing payment processes and taking the hassle out of parking. So as you see here, basically with using image recognition, we are able to remove parking fines. So we can just take that away. And we can also remove all congestions by parking barriers. So you can just have free flow. And that's, we believe this is the future of parking. But I'm not going to talk too much about what we do. I'm actually going to talk more about how we use Kahoot to actually engage more with our audience. So if you go to the next slide, Evelyn, we actually have two success stories to talk about today. One is an external sales meeting and a virtual sales event, and the other one is going to be a more internal marketing strategy workshop that we use Kahoot for. And that's also where we use the brainstorm feature. So first of all, I just want to kind of talk about the introduction to each of those events. If I start with a virtual sales event, we were invited to an annual parking conference for airports internationally. It was in London last year. And normally this is kind of a conference where you have a round table and you interact with your audience. You can get to know them and network. And obviously, as of COVID, we had to convert that into a virtual event. And we didn't just want this to be a typical video conference where everyone was listening and didn't have the opportunity to interact. We were looking out for a software that could help us to interact more, to network, and be able to also identifying who's the hottest leads amongst our audience. So that was the introduction of that kind of event. And the other event was where we were having a marketing strategy workshop, and we wanted to kind of set the path for how to use marketing for 2021. And we wanted to kind of use this technology to foster creativity and also be able to give everyone an equal say. So if we start with what we did with the airport conference and the sales meet and this virtual sales event, when I was looking at what we could do with Kahoot, we saw that, okay, all the different question types are that some of them were familiar from how I've used Kahoot for quiz, but it's also a lot of new question types that enabled us to interact in a completely different way. And what we did, we merged our normal PowerPoint slides into Kahoot and merged that with different question types. And we created different sections. So the first section was actually we tried to warm up the audience and see how we could, starting the normal conversation going. And onto the right here, you see one of some examples of how we started our questions to just basically get the conversation going with background questions. And one of the kind of extra benefits that we saw from this is actually not that we actually got to know our audience better, but the audience actually were able to get themselves to know something about all the other contestants as well, and that made one extra dynamic to the whole webinar, I would say. And if you go to the next slide, Evelyn. So that was the first section, and then we also tried to kind of use Kahoot for highlighting what's the benefit with our service and our product. And you can use a lot of time on slides to be able to talk about all the unique selling points, but it's also important to actually acknowledge whether your audience has catch that and be able to, say anything about what they value with those benefits. So here you also see two examples that we used in that kind of sales meeting to be able to get some feedback from the audience, what they value and and to clarify if they have understood what's our USPs. Next slide, please. And I think one of the most interesting parts about using Kahoot in sales meetings is actually the ability to identify players. So that means when we started with the whole virtual event, we were able to identify the players with an email. So that means all the answers that they provide us is also creates a report after. So we're able to merge even with this kind of meeting was held in almost eight different meetings, the same meeting, and we were able to merge all the results in just one report. And by doing so, we were also able to do some kind of questioning that could generate a completely new way of generating leads and identifying who are the most attractive leads to follow up further after the meeting. So that was, here you see one example that we actually asked, where are you in the journey of purchasing? And we were actually able to identify unique people who we can contact more or less directly after the meeting to see whether we can go further. And that actually gave results from our side after this meeting. So that is one of the largest benefits, I would say. And if you think about it, this is not something you could do in a normal meeting, on an on-site meeting. You cannot just go and ask, raise your hand who are ready for buying this product. That would be kind of awkward. But in this kind of context, it's a different approach, I would say. Evelyn, can you go to the next one, please? And now I want to talk a little bit more on, after that meeting, we just discovered, okay, this is an amazing software that we can use also for more kind of creative sessions internally. So in this use case, we were having this strategic workshop that we wanted to catch a lot of ideas from all the from the team. And obviously we were sitting at our home office remotely, and we were not able to kind of interact in a normal way. And we, as a tech company, we're used to this typical creative sessions using Post-its and putting them up on the Blackboard. And with this brainstorm question type that Kahoot just released a couple of months ago, we tested this out, and we were actually able to have, almost actually more effective meeting, although we were sitting on a remote meeting. So we were able to actually bring all the ideas on the counter, and that also made us, having the best opportunity to make the best decision out of our session. So that was really, really effective. If you go to the next slide, Evelyn. Another important benefit we experienced from using the brainstorm question was also that we were able to catch not more ideas, but we actually got those who are not probably that active in that kind of sessions to be more active, and everyone got an equal say. And I think that is also important, that for foster creativity, that everyone is feeling heard and equal, and you have an equal say. And that also led to more commitment in the team, that everyone felt that they were part of the whole decision we made. So that is the major part. If you go to the next slide, Evelyn, I've made some tips that I'll kind of conclude what we have experienced so far by using Kahoot's technology. And here you see the first two ones, they're related to the sales approach and the sales workshops. And number 3 and 4 is more kind of how you can use this internally to be able to foster creativity and be able to give everyone a voice. So I would say that that was my experience of using Kahoot so far, and we have decided that this is the way to go forward. So now we're also going to focus more on using Kahoot in onboarding and e-learning, both our clients, but also internally when we get new hires in our company.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Christer. So when it comes to creating Kahoots, can you walk our attendees through how you create a Kahoot, for instance?
Of course, so how I did it is that normally I create Kahoot in Google Slides. So Kahoot has this feature where you can basically upload your slides either from Google Slides or PowerPoint or whatever kind of presentation tool you're using, and I imported those into Kahoots. And of course, sometimes you need to do some editing with the presentation. So what you can do is just download one-on-one of those slides and import them directly. And how I tried to create it was basically to have this content as easy as possible on the typical slides, and then make it more interactive with this typical Kahoot questions. And then you have a lot of different question types to choose from. So whether you want to have the typical quiz question, if you want to have a short answer, if you want to have a brainstorm, it's a lot of different opportunities to actually, make an edge to your presentation. So I didn't try to kind of overdoing it with a lot of different question types. I tried to kind of figure out what's the actual purpose and the outcome of my message, and what do I actually want to have as feedback in return from the audience. So that's basically how I did it.
Perfect. So I see that a couple of people are asking if we can do a live demo of that. So I can just walk people through how they can create their own Kahoots. So if you have a Kahoot account, you can log into Kahoot, as you see here. This is my account. You can click on the create button in the top right navigation. You can either start from scratch, or you can create from any of the templates that we have here. And you see we have a brainstorm meeting template. If I click this, you get everything pre-filled, and it just walks you through what to add. And as Christer mentioned, there's a ton of different question types you can add. So if you click on add question, there's many to choose from depending on what you want out of the question. And then you just add in everything you want, add in your brainstorm question, and then click done, and your whole Kahoot will be live, and you can play this with your team whenever you want. Just click done. It's validating. It tells you if you filled in everything. When you actually have, then it just says Kahoot is ready. Click done. This will come under your Kahoots on the platform. Here it is, have a brainstorm meeting, and I can play this with anybody that I want. I see that there's a lot of different questions about brainstorm and how it looks while you're playing, which is why now we will actually play a brainstorm Kahoot together. Now I have to say a disclaimer, I am going to lock the game at 100 people just because I want to quickly show you this. We're not playing this as an actual Kahoot game, we're playing this as a demo. So if you want to join the game, you have to be fast. There's only a couple of questions. This is the game pin. If you know Kahoot, you can now go to kahoot.it and then enter the game pin. You'll be asked to enter your email address, and be quick because I will lock the game. See, people are joining. When we are about at 100, I will lock this game and then we get started. Apologies if you haven't made it in the game by then. This is going really fast. And we're locked at exactly 100. That was great. So everybody that is not in the game right now, I do apologize. You will just be able to see the game, but feel free to add any answers you want in the chat as well, if you just want to compete with everybody else. Again, this is not a game to win. This is a game to show you how it looks. So with Kahoot, you can add true or false questions. So this is an easy one. Can you give everybody a voice with brainstorm? Yes or no? Number hundreds. One more person. There we go. You can indeed give everybody a voice, and the 4 people that said false here, you will see that in a second. As I mentioned, it is not about winning, but still, Rai, congratulations. So you can also give people a voice with word cloud. So when it comes to word cloud, you just have 20 characters that you can write something. And here I'm asking, which question type do you think you'll use the most? And you have an easy overview of which ones we have. There's many different ones that we haven't talked about today, but you can just look these up on your own time. We have videos to walk you through how to use those as well. The word cloud is forming. I'm curious to see which words are bigger, which means that they have been used more often. So as you can see, people are writing their own things, and you can give people a voice with this as well. Seems like quiz is still the most popular choice. This is our standard question type, but we also have brainstorm and word cloud, which are huge here. That's fantastic. So one of the fun things with brainstorm is that we actually see that most people, when creating a Kahoot with a brainstorm in it, they are most likely to add slides into their questions as well. So this is a slide that I've just added in as an image, and it just tells you different ways that you can use brainstorm. So these are use cases that I talked about earlier. You can use brainstorm to reflect on processes with an end of year retrospective. You can use it to prioritize feature development. You can gather employee feedback. You can finalize product name. You can choose editorial focus in any of your meetings. And it's just great to facilitate discussions, because while you are voting on things, I can talk about other things, which you will see as we now have our brainstorm question. So what would you use brainstorm for? So the people that are in the game will now be prompted to type their ideas. There are up to 3 ideas that you can normally add. Here I've only limited to 1. If you are playing a game with 1 to 333 people, you can get up to 3 answer options, which means that everybody can give 3 ideas that they are passionate about. If it's between 333 and 500, you get 2 ideas. If it is over 500, you only get 1 idea, since otherwise the brainstorm would take forever. So you see that all of the answers are coming in. I will be able to unlock these and look at everything very quickly. So now you see everything is coming in. This is also the time where you as a presenter can give more information, background information. You can ask people to give other types of answers. You can even, when everything is unlocked, ask people to come on, turn their mic on, and explain their answers. So we'll give it another second, and then I'll go to revealing the answer options, just to show you how that looks. Great. So now it's sorting the ideas. Kahoot is using smart grouping section, which means that if there are similar ideas, they will show up underneath each other, so it's easier to group things. I can also manually drag and drop things together. So here you see that there are a ton of different things that came up. There is workshops, visions, get results, meetings, team meetings. All of this has the word meetings, which means that I can group them by dragging and dropping. That means that you will only have to choose, when you're voting in the next section, you only have to choose one thing. I can even click, make it bigger, ask the person that actually wrote this to give more information. You can use all of these different stages throughout your brainstorm quiz to just get more out of the Kahoot. You're not just playing a game, you're actually holding a complete feedback and workshop discussion. You can even choose to hide ideas if an idea is inappropriate or something is something that you don't want to show. Here I see idea, collaboration. You can just keep going, talk about everything, and then you can start the voting. So now it's time to vote, which means that everybody will see on their devices all of the different options that people have written, and people can vote yes or no. Then after this is done, the actual votes, the actual ideas that have the most votes will come up as the top 3 ideas. So this is a way for you to quickly just get the information that you need. And everybody here will be able to vote through all of the 100 ideas, which means that I won't let this going on for too long. But if you're having a brainstorm session, the idea of the Kahoot is not to do it quickly, but to actually get more information and deeper discussions about everything. So use this as a facilitation tool for your discussions. I'll skip this in a couple of seconds and we'll see all of the ones that have been voted. When we have 400 votes, I will go further. So now all of the options that have the most votes will show up here in the top 3. Those people will also receive points. In the 3rd place, this one had 11 votes. You see who has given it and the idea. Picking product names. It's a great use case. There's 3 in 2nd place, since you see that this is a silver star. More in silver star. So all of these have the same amount of votes. And we have one winner with 16 votes. So now you've seen the complete overview of how you can do a brainstorm Kahoot and how it is easy to group things into the same similar things. You see that you can give stars, upvotes to ideas that you think are interesting. And at the end, you actually get the whole overview of which ideas got how many points. So going to the next question, Barbie had the best idea earlier, so she got the most points. When it comes to Kahoot, there are different ways you can use it, and this is a double points. So Christoph talked about how he used Kahoot at 2 Park Technologies, but how did he use it again? And make sure to choose all that apply. So after you have done your brainstorm and after you have done the whole information, the whole presentation about what you're talking about, you can always just check back if people have paid attention, if they know what was just explained. So here I'm just checking if you paid attention to Christopher's presentation. Let's see who got this correct. Christopher talked about 3 different use cases. They were amazing use cases. He used Kahoot to identify leads for autopay. This was because he used the player identifier feature. And in a moment, I will show you how you can turn this on. This is where you ask people to put in their email address before they join the Kahoot game, which means that you will get all of the email addresses afterwards in the reports, and you will be the only one to see that. So there is nobody will be able to see the email addresses throughout the game, so you're still anonymous behind your nickname. Only the host will get the information. You can give everybody a voice with brainstorms, and you can host very, very effective strategy sessions for any department, really. Which brings us to our poll. Would you be interested in just getting more information about this? This is an easy yes or no question. Also, how you can end your workshops. As Christopher mentioned, he used this to just see where people were in the buying journey. A lot of people say that they would be interested. That's fantastic to hear. So this is the end of the Kahoot, but not the end of the webinar. You would get your top 3 of people that have won. Of course, we only did 100 people in this Kahoot, so this is not representative of everybody on this call. I just wanted to give you a demo of how it actually worked. So when it comes to adding player identifier, let me quickly show you that before I will go through Q&A. So as I mentioned, player identifier is where you can ask people for their email addresses before they join your game. And you can do this under, if you go to your drop down, your settings. And then if you are the owner of the account, which means that if there's multiple people using the account, if there's multiple licenses, just ask the owner of it. They can choose to enable player identifier, where you can choose to identify people by email address or any other thing that you want. You can type here, if I want employee number, if I'm dealing with all my employees, if I want to add company number, if you're dealing with a ton of different companies, that's absolutely up to you. And then when you're playing a Kahoot, you just go to your Kahoots, you choose the Kahoot that you have just created, you click play. Here you have 2 options. And as you remember in the beginning, I showed you that you can play Kahoot in 2 different ways. You can play it as a live game under present, or you can play it as a Kahoot challenge, which is self-paced. Then you would click assign. Here I would do present, just play it right now. And then I can enable player identifier right there. So I can just click it and people will be prompted to enter email address, last name, company, anything that you have chosen beforehand. I hope that that gave you some information. So let's go over to our questions and I'll stop sharing for now and we'll just check out which questions are still open and what Krista and I can talk about. Let me look at questions. If you've already seen one, Krista, you are very welcome to answer it. If not, I will just look at it. There's a question, how the grouping and brainstorm worked for you specifically. Like how did you handle your marketing session, Christer?
Well, so I guess that's more kind of how we actually structured the workflow. Well, we wanted to just ask. We basically used, I think we used 8 or 9 different brainstorm questions in a row. So we didn't actually merge that with a lot of slides. This was the very typical the typical brainstorm where we were used to doing this sitting on site, doing it in front of a blackboard and using Post-its. And we basically put all those questions that we would normally include in that kind of session. And we added a ton of those questions and walked through every one of them. So that means when we had one question, we typed all our different ideas in. Then we actually stopped at, before voting, we actually stopped and discussed each different idea. We actually let the one that actually inserted the idea to present everything and added some extra information to the group to make sure that we had all this kind of all the extra information behind the idea. And then when we had done that, we went further into voting. So that's basically how we did it.
Okay, that's a really good way to do it. Did you use results afterwards? Because I see that some people are asking if you can actually get the brainstorm ideas afterwards. Did you do something with the reports?
Oh yeah, so this is a very important one because one of the largest benefits is that we didn't actually have to write anything or take any notes because we got the reports straight after, so we can just go into the reports tab in Kahoots and just get all the different results there. So that is not only a benefit on the brainstorm kind of session, but it's also a very, very important tool if you're going to this virtual sales meeting where you can actually capture all the different answers from different attendees. And I think also what was not mentioned here is that since we were having 10 sales meeting, but they were all the same kind of meetings, but with different audience, we were able to merge all the results from all those meetings into one report. So it made us a lot easier to actually work with the report after.
Definitely. I can quickly show people how that looks if you would like to know. So if you are in your Kahoots again, then you just navigate to reports in the top navigation instead. Here you will get all the reports for all of the Kahoots that you've ever played. So we just did the how to host remote workshops. You get an overview of difficult questions, people that would need help, which means that they have less than 35% correct in the whole game, people that didn't finish the game. You get an overview of players, and I'm not going to click on this since player identifier was enabled, which means that you would see email addresses. But under questions, you can see all the questions that we did. And if you just click on it, you get all of the information and the ideas that people have given. And here you just get the player and not the player identifier. You can see if I've grouped it, and you can easily download this. If you click on report options, you can download it, you can print it, you can send it to people. It's a great way to do it. And since you were talking about combining reports, if you go back to reports, you see there's a couple that have player identifier on, which is again where you can ask people for email address. Those you can click and combine. So I just highlighted those both. You can click on combine and create a new Kahoots reports with these two combined. So I can call it combined reports from workshop. And then all of the answers and all of the questions and everything in here will just be linked together and will show up as one. It will show me these two and all of the information. Fantastic. Let's look if there's another question. Let me check. There's so many questions to choose from. I'm very sorry, we will absolutely not be able to get through all the questions since there's still 75 of them open. But if you have any dire questions, you can always email us after the webinar as well. And if there's a question for Christer, if you send us an email after, we will definitely make sure that he gets back to you. Let me check. Is there another one which would be for Krister? There's a question if Brainstorm would also work in different languages. I know that you are not a native English. Did you use Brainstorm in English or in Norwegian?
Well, so since the sales workshop was international, we used English, and also when the internal meeting, we used Norwegian, which is our native language.
Okay, so there you see, guys, it is actually usable in multiple languages. So Krister and I are both based in Norway, since Kahoot's headquarters is in Norway, if you were wondering about that. The other questions that I see are mostly Kahoot related. I'll just answer to a couple of these. There is a question on how much Brainstorm costs. You will get that information in a second. There is a question on question types and slides. So there's a question on how to import slides into your Kahoot. If I show it, Krister, do you want to walk people through it?
Well, I can try.
Well,
first of all, I'm using Google Slides normally, but you can basically use whatever kind of presentation tool that you're using. So what you do is you download, since this is a Google Slides, you download this as a PDF. So that means in this case, you just download the Google Slides directly as a file, and you're able to upload that file into Kahoot. So when you have downloaded everything, you go down to import slides, and then you are able to upload that file into Kahoot, and that's going to take a couple of seconds, I think.
Yeah, it depends on how heavy the slides are, as in how many slides you have.
Yeah, and then all those slides will just appear on the left side of the screen there, and then you're able to add extra question types, and even if you want to go into the question bank and see if there's some similar questions from the community, or if you actually have added some slides that you want to reuse from different presentations.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question bank pulls from all of the public Kahoots, so don't worry about privacy. Everybody that adds Kahoots and makes them public, which means that everybody can see them, only those questions will show up in the question bank, as well as your own Kahoots, which means that you can just quickly find the question you've already used before and add it here. I wanted to show you how to upload the slides, but as you can see, my internet is very slow since my slide deck downloads are very slow. So unfortunately, I won't be able to do that, but we have many amazing quick videos for you to watch. Oh, there we go. Import slides, but now this is going to take a little bit. You can keep editing while this is importing, which is good when you're dealing with internet that is a bit slower, since we are currently streaming from my laptop. And then when this is done, it will all show up right there. Anything you want to add to that, Krister?
Well, I think you not only have to create all the content in this presentation tool, you can also add a question type which is called slide. I think, isn't it? Yep. So that means you're able to also create some slide content in between your questions if you want to just provide some extra information.
Absolutely. I saw somebody asking earlier if they can add videos first and then ask questions about it. Just add a slide. So add question, click slide, and just add your YouTube link right there. People will be able to watch it before any questions are asked. And as you can see, all my slides have imported. Go ahead, Krister.
And I would also add, that is a good question. Adding video makes a lot of new kind of ways to be more like interesting in your content, and you can actually, instead of always explain everything yourself, you can actually import something like a great content from YouTube and make that explain everything for you. So I use that a lot.
Definitely. And you can even choose, it doesn't have to be the full video, you can literally choose from when to play it. So it's very easy to work with. As you can see, my slides have all added, and I can just drag and drop those in the order that I want, as well as just add questions exactly where I want and drag and drop those in the correct order as well. It's a great way to make your presentation even more interactive. So with that, I think that we have gone through most of the questions that were about you and your use case. The others are mostly Kahoot focused, which means that my amazing colleagues are still answering those. Which brings us to resources where you can get more information. And I will share my screen again to walk you through that specifically. Sharing screen. There we go. So resources, we have a lot of resources in Kahoot. You might not have found them yet, but I'm here to tell you how to find them. First off, for more information on Brainstorm and how you can use it, you can go to kahoot.com/business/Kahoot360, since Brainstorm is exclusive in the Kahoot 360 package. There's 2 different plans under Kahoot 360, and you can just check it out, see which one fits best for you if you want Brainstorm, and go from there. We have a lot of different success stories, which means that these are customers that have shared their story of how they use Kahoot with us, and we've added it here. And actually, Krister's story just went up on the website yesterday. So if you want to reread his amazing story just to get inspired on how he actually used Kahoot and Brainstorm to make his workshops and his marketing meetings more engaging and just better, then you can go to our customer stories page and find his case study right there. There's a ton of different short guide videos on our YouTube account. Our YouTube account is just called Kahoot. There is even a 1-minute video where I walk you through how to use Brainstorm. Then if you still haven't found your answers, you can go to our support center, which is support.kahoot.com, and literally everything you've ever wanted to know about Kahoot is right there. So when it comes to Kahoot 360 itself and Brainstorm, Brainstorm is available in Kahoot 360 Plus and Kahoot 360 Pro. So you can go to kahoot.com/business/Kahoot360. If you're buying for your team, go to kahoot.com/360/pricing to find some discounts. If you're interested in an individual plan, go to kahoot.com/business/pricing instead. With that, we have gotten to our end of the webinar. I still see that there's many questions that keep coming in. Again, send us an email, since we won't be able to answer everything, unfortunately. You can email us at business@kahoot.com. We'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. And for other information, plans and pricing, go to kahoot.com/business/Kahoot-360.